What's up everyone, this is Cher talking and welcome back to my channel. And in today's video we'll be doing a review of both 1.5 anniversary banners, starting now with Polka. We have also Zenon, Evelyn and Faerie to talk about. They were all buffed in global, so it's very important to discuss them before you decide if you want to summon or not. Well, starting with Polka, you can see that there are plenty of versions of him. There is this version that was released with the latest SaGa collection celebration, and I said it was not that strong because it really was not. His AoE potential was kind of weak, and also this first and second attack didn't hit for too much. The strongest attack could not be fired up on turn 1, so he had some problems. The very first version of Polka that is a mage was way better because of Scatter Explosion being pretty strong and even Farfeather having good damage for the coast. But now we have something totally different. This version of Polka is insane. As you can see here, he starts with 110% intelligence. That's way higher than the past versions. The past versions have 96% and the other one has 96% as well. There was a huge problem with the first one, that was agility. Very bad with only 50% increase. And that was increased, and this version of Polka is very good in the case of sustain. It has a high endurance, it also has a high will. The strat distribution was not a problem. It's all about the damage potential being kind of low. But now we have a very strong character with strong nuke potential in this new version that does not have the same endurance or same will. As you can see here, he's not as good for sustain when compared to the past, but the damage is extremely high. You see that the agility is on 80s, that's good, and also there's a bonus for both agility and intelligence, and 110% breaks all the intelligence status with all characters we have in the game so far. It's even higher than JP version of Polka from the 2.5 anniversary. Yes, the next version of Polka doesn't have that much. And he still keeps the Farfeather from his first mage version and some other stuff. Well, just to say here, the agility is good enough. It's nothing spectacular, but it's good enough. The intelligence is pretty high, but he's all about that. He's a nuker and he will be used for farming, for bossing. Let's talk about the passives. He starts with Robust Tension. This is already changed in global. His damage increases by 15%, and when he's on full HP, it increases for further 10%. So 25% on full HP and 15% at all times. Flame M3 increases by 15%. Remember Dora? Dora was released in the past week and only had Flame M2, only increasing 10%, and now Polka increases by 15%. So that is pretty strong already. And then he also has Overtension, a passive that's used for bossing. It increases 15 at all times, 30% on combo, and 45% on overdrive. So what do we have with this guy here? On full HP we have 25 plus 15, that means 40, and then plus 15 means 55. This guy gets to 55% increase when on full HP, or 45% when not on full HP. In boss fights, you usually take a hit here and there, so that means that at least 45% will always be active. And with this much intelligence, he'll be hitting for huge amounts of damage. Imagine on overdrive even. In overdrive, this guy would be dealing very high damage. Okay, so the first skill is Farfeather. That is a sheep attack, only 2 BP. C power, it's not bad. This skill is not bad. And if you want to have some damage without having to use normal attack, because remember, he's a mage, his normal attack is terrible, you can use Farfeather. But that will also take time to restore your BP, because you actually want to use either skill number 2 or skill number 3 or even an inheritance instead of just using the other attacks. That's also some sort of a problem with Polka. He does not have a good normal attack. Non-mages have, unless we're talking about Global X Rock Blockade that has a 0 BP skill, so that you don't ever need to use a normal attack. And with his case, he also does not buff his own intelligence when using normal attacks. So that's why you don't want to use it too much, but you eventually have to if you want to store more BP. The second skill is Sunfire Blade, and this one is exactly interesting. It's fire and slash. Well, the power is also okay, but it's a power that we already see in many 6 BP skills. But at least it increases his own intelligence. We can kind of remember of the past version of Barthélemy that had something kind of similar, but very similar in power at least. Barthélemy has a debuff with his second skill that's called Flame Magic that has a little more power, but this Barthélemy doesn't have even that much intelligence. But as we can compare that they are both fire mages with 6 BP skills that are comparable. This one will debuff the STR from the target, while Polka will simply buff himself. So it depends on what you want. At least this is a way for him to keep increasing his intelligence. And returning to him here, the last skill is back detonation. Back detonation was 90 p on JP, but here it's only 8, and that's a very strong nuke because of the passives in the status. Back detonation is not triple S power, but it heals the user. So when you are using back detonation, you get a heal, and here is medium effect instead of small. It should be close to 800 heal with a maxed version of Polka. So he has sustain, and he can use that every 3 turns at least, and he can also use this 2 times in a 3-turn cycle. If you are using him for nukes in a farming setup where he attacks on turn 1 and turn 3, he would do a lot of damage. And you probably want him to do this instead of using some Fire Blade, and if you're just wanting damage. But if you want him to perform well in boss fights, and if you're using a buffer like Meteorite or something, it's even okay to keep doing some Fire Blade, since some Fire Blade also buffs his intelligence to get it even higher. So in the end, this version of Polka is a very good nuker, but he becomes even stronger if you get Scatter Explosions. Scatter Explosions is a skill from his first mage style. If you have him, you already know how strong the skill is, even by using it with the original style. But remember, the original style is not even that powerful. It only has 25% increase in damage. Imagine the other one that gets up to 55 with even higher intelligence, higher agility to never miss out. This Polka is now a powerhouse. He will be one of the strongest attackers with the usage of Scatter Explosions and not back detonation. Yeah. Is he still strong enough without Scatter Explosions? Yes, he is, because of status and passives. But if you have Scatter, you see something very nice. Remember, because Scatter was changed in Global, it was only 3 hits in JP, but here it hits between 3 to 5. So Polka becomes very strong just because of the number of hits, especially that he already has his own weapon. It will be cheap to upgrade. Also, upgrading Polka's weapon help out with Albert instant kill strategy, since he uses Polka's word as well. So it's a very good investment, but Polka is all about damage. Even through he's very strong, his future style will get AoE options as well, so if you want the definitive single target version of Polka, is this one. He also gets another one, let's talk about it. Here we have the different versions of Polka in JP, and this is the next version, that is a mage, and this one is a physical one. The next one that's a mage is more important to talk about, because it doesn't have the same intelligence like I said. Here we have a very high number in global, and he has to access to 2 different skills that can be interesting. First one is Fireball Plus, that's an AoE. So, well, this next one is an AoE as well. And he carries Scatter Explosion. This is Scatter Explosion in JP. So if you miss it, the first mage version in the future, if you summon for this one, you will also have access to. And the third skill, Burn the Soul, it's an AoE attack that takes damage, the coil, just like Dora. Yeah, it's 80% of your HP, because it's so powerful. It's double S power with AoE damage. It uses 14 BP, and let me tell you something, I do believe that they will decrease this to 13 so that we can use this skill with the current version of Polka. Since this one here is more about sustain as well, so it's not as powerful as the one that we are getting right now. So with that said, I must say that for damage, this Polka is very powerful. So is it okay to summon for characters that are just damage? Yes, totally yes, because sometimes we just need more power to clear bosses faster. Remember the tower? There were this challenge against Creator where we needed to clear it as soon as possible, and this may happen again in other floors, and we will need extra power. So if I were to give him a grade, I would say that he's one of the best double S grades. He's just like Final Emperor levels of power, and even higher depending if you have full HP, so will be very useful for the time being. The next style we talk about is Zenon, and Zenon has 3 styles here on Global right now. One is the Story S style, this one is the Premium, and this other one was the Platinum version. As you can see, the status are pretty different. We have 102% for Dexterity, and also 95 for Agility against only 69. He has a very high Agility, and he can even be used for evasion strategies. Zenon must be one of the best styles from this banner. Polka is very nice, but Zenon is also just good because it brings a lot of buffs to himself. Well, starting from here, we can see that he has 57 endurance, well, it's an average value for intelligence as well. You can use this, and a little above average for will. And well, love and charisma does not matter. The stats that matter are dexterity and agility. His dexterity is pretty high on 17, it was buffed as well, and has 11 agility. He does have lower agility than Mikhail. Mikhail has access to light speed plus by inheritance. He can even enter evasion strategies easily, but Zenon is not that far behind. He has a very good agility. And it's also important because he has an AoE build, and when we want to use AoE attackers, we want agility so that we attack before enemies. They are the best farmers anyway. So, the first passive of him is a very good one. Call it Veteran Composure. This one, on the start of a round, will increase his own dexterity by large effect. That means 15% increase to his dexterity, allowing him to do even more damage. And he will also enter an evasion instance. Which characters we had in the past with this? Halloween Vampire Lady in the very first limited version of Madeline. And I have been using that style to this day, for a whole year. She is very powerful because of this for farming, Spiral, and other content where you don't need more than 1 or 2 turns to kill the enemies. And Zenon is the next character for this type of strategy. Other the characters that can do this are like the Glow X version of Rock Bouquet, but she has a chance, 25% chance of triggering an evasion stance, but he will always trigger on 1 turn. So this means that it's better for farming, but for boss fights on turn 2 onwards, he has nothing. Even the buff is gone. But still good for farming and Spiral and things like that. You can even place it on the front of a Tiger Shark formation like I have been doing with Vampire Lady and Madeline, and you will just receive less damage on turn 1, allowing everyone to just kill the enemy. Sometimes even if you have status augment inflictors, you can stop the enemies before they kill the remaining characters. They will just miss their attacks against Zenon. So, the second passive, Strengthened Energy 2. Attack damage increases by medium effect, that means it's 10%, and he will always recover 2 BP on start of battle. So he starts with 12, and that is something important into his build. More into that later. And Fire Depth 5 increases his damage by 20%. So what we have with this guy, we have 30% increase in damage. That's not spectacular, but kinda with the average of damage dealers, but not with the strongest ones. But he also has a dexterity buff, so that still allows him to reach higher damage. And his dexterity is 102%, very good for AoE. So let's start talking about his skills. The first one, Light Needles, is both Pierce and Sun. This guy is a combination of Pierce and Sun for at least the first 2 skills. Light Needles was 5 to 4 BP on JP, so it was not like this. They changed it, so now you can use this skill every time. The Madeline that I was talking about, that has the same evasion stance, has a 4 BP skill, so sometimes she didn't have enough BP to keep doing AoE. Now Zenon can do it all the time. There's a future version of Monica in JP that will also have a similar passive, but Zenon can already be used right now, and it will help you clean tower and some stuff by use of this. And Spears and Sun is the same elements as Matriarch, so they combo very well together. Either on Amazon Raid X, either on Tiger Shark, or either on Dragon Strike, they will work well. Then the second passive is called Radiant Cross, and this one here is a roll attack. Sadly, I don't like roll attacks, but there's a catch here. You can just forget that the skill exists, depending on the build that you are doing. It also gives critical damage against Undead and Demon, the same type of critical that Matriarch has access to. But at least it's S power. If the enemies are relying on a roll, it can still help. But 10 BP is still too high of a cost for something like this. And then the last skill is Eulogy. This one here is amazing because it also has a chance to instant kill. It doesn't have such a high intelligence, only 66, but because Eulogy has medium chance, it will effectively instant kill some targets. Triple S attack with 61 modifier. We have some skills with maybe lower cost than this, but because of the added effect, they increase this to 11. Because he starts with 12 BP, he can use this from turn 1. But this is not just that. This guy is actually better used with an inheritance, and an inheritance comes from his platinum style, so most people will have access to, with just so many free tickets available. Noble Cross is a very good skill because it's a fast attack. Sadly, the power is not high, it's only B power with 22. If you compare, Joe attack is not that strong either, and we can clear waves with Joe. but he also doesn't have that many passives, so sometimes you will not be able to clear waves because the damage is not that high. You see, Joe Sorbet Flambe is 23, Noble Cross is very similar, it's only 22, as you can see here. In the future, you'll get an upgrade to become a Nay power, but this future is very far, so don't care too much about this right now. But at least what you can do is inherit Noble Cross, you can even leave this 112, and then you will just keep using the other attack like Needles. He opens with a fast attack, attacking before any enemies, and then just keeps using Light Needles. And if you want, just keep the AoE build, you can even increase Radiant Cross to 12, LRG as well, and then you get to his S style and inherit Stingray. Why Stingray? Because sometimes if he skips a turn, he'll never have enough VP to use any other skill. He will just eventually return to Light Needles. This is a very good build for him. It's better on AoE than on single target. You can still use Allergy if you want and just keep using single target attacks like Quick Trust or even the better one, Gleam Pierce, but I do believe that this guy is better on AoE. And especially because of the passive that will allow him to get into an evasion stance and negate damage on turn 1. Zenon is very interesting in this build. He tries to mimic one other character that we have, that is Darky, at least on the AoE build, that just keeps using AoE forever. And I must say that in power, he is very similar, and Darky is on the top of our tier list, one of the best Pierce attackers in the game when it's used for farming. And that is the same case with Zenon. If you don't have Darky, Zenon is even better. If you have Darky, both still work well together in the deadly Pierce Axe formation. So, in my opinion, Zenon is also another very good character in this banner. Oh, and just so you know, in JP there's two other versions of Zenon. This one is a Platinum one, that will come in an UDX banner, and this other one is a limited one. This one has the same AoE sheep attack, and this last one here has something else that is a very powerful attack with MVP that hits between 3 to 4 times. But I do believe that the current version is strong enough and you shouldn't even need to look ahead. Okay, so next character is Evelyn, and we only had an S style of Evelyn so far, with access to very interesting skills, to be honest. This one was buffed in global as well. Let's open. She has now 105 intelligence and 81 agility. This agility is good enough, and the intelligence is also good enough, higher than other mages we received so far, well, save for Polka. And she has now been buffed for passives and skills. Power Charge 3 allows her to start the battle with 13 BP, and this is also interesting for her build for debuff. And the second passive, Absorb Magic, has 25% chance of debuffing a target's intelligence and also 25% chance of increasing her own intelligence by 10%. Well, it has two effects. I actually prefer to have only one, but a guarantee, but it is what it is. At least she's already a debuffer, and this gives her another edge to debuff, but sometimes it can also be a curse because there are enemy souls that sometimes by debuffing like 40% of their intelligence, they will just cleanse themselves. So Evelyn has no control if she keeps debuffing or not. But not every battle has this type of Zodes. And the increase in intelligence is not that high, it's only 10%. And then she has Further 5, so 20% increase in damage. It's her only passive for damage. Her damage is not as strong as any of the recent mages that were overpowered, like this current Polka or the latest version of Global X Rock Bouquet. But with that said, we have Shadow Bolt. It's a very old skill, yes. It's an old skill that has a medium chance to inflict stun. Well, we do have other mages with high chance to stun, that is Stun Yunzin, and even Miss Sorting, Freestyle even. But the damage is not that bad of 2 BP. It's just that thing that you do when you don't have VP and you, well, don't want to use a normal attack. Then we have Poison Bog. Poison Bog is a skill that we had with Death. It's an AoE attack with deep power, not that bad, but it has a chance to inflict poison with low chance. So because she does have ways to increase her intelligence, she will have very high chances of inflicting poison. Not just poison, but also stun. Yeah, if you really need stun. And well, because this is AoE, you can even use this twice in a row. Because of Power Charge 3, she will have enough BP, but not for 3 turns. but poison is only for some very specific stages. Very high stages in the tower can be but poison is still very specific, very hard to use. There are some tower stages like 200 and beyond that can use poison, but still not something that you use in your everyday. Then the last one is Euthanize, and we already saw the skill before. It comes with Psycho Boom from Global X Rock Bouquet. Global X Rock Bouquet needs 12 VP because she uses two skills on the same time. Yeah, she opens with Psycho Noise and then she uses Euthanize. Psycho Noise is a skill that is also available in Evelyn. This is a drop from story mode, and Psycho Noise is her second skill. And you can even use this twice in a row. You can start with Psycho Noise and use it again. Why? Because this is actually very interesting. It debuffs intelligence and will. And by using this 2 times, you have very good debuff from start. If the fight does not take too much to end, this is a very good strategy to open with. And Psycho Noise, it's not that strong, but at least hit multiple targets. Maybe if you have something like a very good nuke on turn 2, and then you can just open with Evelyn to reduce will and intelligence, so you decrease the incoming damage, but increase your magical damage as well. This can be used. Then returning here, Euthanize is good because of 2 things. It will reduce the intelligence of a target, always. Yeah, always. And that is by 20%. So it does not have any chance involved. That's why I also say that sometimes absorb magic may actually be a curse. If you decrease intelligence with Euthanize and also debuff with absorb magic on the same turn, on the next turn if you debuff again, sometimes in a fight like Creator will just cleanse himself because he does not want to be debuffed by more than 40%. But Euthanize is a very powerful attack on SS in 47 by only 8 BP. And after debuffing the target, she will also increase her own intelligence by medium effect. And medium effect is actually 30%. So she actually gets strong. And you can even use Euthanize twice in a row. Yes, twice in a row, just like you could use Psycho Noise. Psycho Noise is an AoE attack, so the power is lower, but it will hit multiple targets. Will debuff intelligence and will. And here we will debuff only intelligence. And also buff our own. Meaning that she becomes a better damage dealer. Yes, she does. But then after that you just have to use your normal attack a little to get BP back, because using Shadow Bolt will not be that good. If you are using her for debuff, you want to use Euthanize again, or Psycho Noise. So Evelyn is a very good character for those that need Global X Rock Bouquet. They can still be used together depending on the formation, but Global X Rock Bouquet is still the superior character, at least for focused strategies. Evelyn may still be good when you want to just run AoE, or you just want Euthanize twice in a row. Then maybe you have a better debuff, but it also comes with some RNG with Absorb Magic. But she's not that far from Global X when used for debuff, but cannot be compared for damage. Global X Rock Bouquet has also heal and also chance to evade. She's the superior character, but Evelyn is still good as she is and will be the best replacement for those without Global X Rock Bouquet. Some interesting information is that she will get 2 other SS styles in JP. One comes from an UDX bidder where she's platinum, and the other one is limited. And this next one is a very good damage dealer because she focuses more on damage by increasing her intelligence when attacking weak targets, already coming with full HP plus damage and overtension. She also has access to other stuff that she steals from other characters, like this attack from Rouge, this attack from Death, and her AoE. That's kind of interesting as well, that the buffs will. Psycho Noise also debuffs because Marquis one only costs 5. Very interesting as well. But the latest one of her, that's kind of recent on JP, this one here has access to other stuff like a sheep, very cheap AoE attack that also debuffs will. And another skill that she steals energy, and this Oitanami is the Euthanize skill. She also has similar effects as the first one with a little extra damage and the chance to always hit intelligence. Okay, so returning, she is a very good mage, in my opinion. It's just that she's being compared to Rock Bouquet that was ahead of her time, and she's a triple S style. Okay, so returning here, she, like I said, she's a very good character. She's just Well, returning here, she's a very good character that can do damage while debuffing, and one of the best debuffs as mages. Well, returning here, she's a very good mage and brings some very good debuff options, and the best debuffers are mages, since they have very high intelligence. It will be hard to be resisted. It's just that if you are comparing her to Global Axe, Rock Bouquet, it's kind of hard to sustain high tier, but she's still very nice for those that don't have her. It's just that, well, comparing her to Rock Bouquet, it's hard because Rock Bouquet was kind of hard. But it's just too hard to compare her. But it's a little hard to compare her to Rock Bouquet because Rock Bouquet was ahead of her time and she was very... But it's still a little hard to compare her to Rock Bouquet because Rock Bouquet was ahead of her time. And if you have Rock Bouquet, I can say that Evelyn, while being different, can be skipped, although she does offer more options for AoE debuff. And the next one is Brownie, and Brownie is a Faerie. Fairies have very low endurance and will, but they do have high agility and above average STR. Well, the other versions of her are not that strong anymore. We had a musical version of her that was kind of good for pierce damage, but it's long gone. Now let's talk about this one. We have 95% STR, that's not high, that's not even close to the best attackers we have in the game. She has 81% dexterity, at least it's good enough because of something that she has. And her agility is also pretty high on 90%. That's also where she gets more bonuses. But intelligence is also very good for 77. She's a debuffer. Yes, she is. That's why she has 77. So she's focused on STR, dexterity, agility, and intelligence. Because she's not a mage, she needs dexterity to hit her attacks. And will, love, and charisma are pretty bad. So, with that said, her first passive, called Piercing / Counter, is pretty bad in my opinion. Well, it could be used, but it's just that... Well, her first passive is called Piercing / Counter. When she's being directly attacked, so only direct attacks, she will evade always, and will counter attack with a Piercing / Attack. The chance is high, so it's 37% according to JP. And this attack will at least increase her own STR. It's both pierce and slash. This attack here, remember, it comes from Minerva. Yes, it was changed for global as well because in JP it's just a normal attack. So when she counters, at least she buffs herself. Okay, but remember, she does have a very low endurance. If you place her on the front, you are just taking a very huge risk just for a chance of counter with a very weak attack. Well, the buff is not something worth here since she's not even a nuker. And then the second passive, called Attack Rhythm. This is also the same one that you get with Minerva, but Minerva has better attacks and better passives. It will increase her own STR by large effect, that is 20%, every time that she attacks. Does not matter which type of attack, doesn't matter if your enemy is weak or not, that is something good. And then Fired Up 5. Again, another character with only 20% increase in damage, but at least one passive that will always increase her STR. Minerva is also better here because she buffs herself on start of a turn, so she gets damage increased even on turn 1. We have other characters that increase their status when attacking, like Mikhail, but Mikhail also has better attacks and better status. Okay, so after talking about this, we have 20% increase in all times and a buff to STR every time that she attacks. So the first skill is called Glinting Strike. This skill here is a deep power AoE attack with pierce damage that has a chance, it does not say if it's small or medium, I don't know, to debuff will of all targets. The value is 15% when maxed. And that's the reason why she has 77 intelligence, because she needs to inflict this will debuff. This type of skill is kind of rare. We do have some characters that can debuff will with single target, like the summer version of Volcano or even Strife. But there is another character that can do this, and that is UDX Mirza. He does not have 77 intelligence, but it's 61. He does have a bonus, something that she lacks. And Stardust Slash is very similar power, but slash, and will also debuff will. In the end, Mirza gets other styles in the future, and he even gets higher intelligence pretty soon with his New Year style. So if you have this version of Mirza, and you are planning to summon his New Year style, you have a higher intelligence, like 90 something, to inflict will with a better chance. There's also the case with Evelyn that we just saw. She has a future style with a 3 BP will debuff. She already has Psycho Noise that uses 8 BP. So in the end, this skill does not stay too relevant in the future. Will debuffs can be interesting, although most of the time they are not needed. But let's say a stage on the tower, you have an enemy that has some resistance to some status elements, so you will really need to debuff the will to try to hit something while also buffing your intelligence to make this work. There's sometimes a need of a debuffer, a buffer, and another status inflictor just to make stuff works. But when you can make it work like to petrify or to confuse, it will be very, very helpful. In JP, her intelligence was pretty low on the 40s or 50s, and now she has 77. That means that if you are using Matriarch, she will buff both STR and intelligence, allowing her to do more damage and also have more chances of debuffing will in tower. With that said, the next skill is called Double Trick, and this is a very old skill that we had with the past version, and also with another Faerie. It's an E attack that will buff STR by small effect. So if you keep using this, she will just buff 2 times from the skill and another 1 from the passive, allowing her to get to very good levels, but still not as strong as any of our nukers. Like I was saying, like Minerva or like Mikhail, they will do more damage than her. Even the skill is not that good by the 6 BP. This is something that we have like since the start of the game. And then there's Miracle Parade. This is something that's not bad, but it's just getting old. Then the last skill is called Miracle Parade. This one here brings something interesting to her build. Miracle Parade uses 8 BP and 1 LP. Why does this 1 LP? Because she enters an evasive stance. That same stance that we talked about with Zenon. She will negate all types of damage for 1 turn. And the damage is not bad, it's triple S. Triple S attack with 8 BP, this is kinda very strong for the current game. We don't have anyone that can do that. We have Erpina that can do triple S damage while using her skill that has a chase, or maybe we can use multi-hit attackers like Mikhail, can also do a lot of damage that should be comparable to triple S damage, but a straight triple S damage with a single attack, it's the first time we are seeing with a single target attack. But why does he use LP? Well, just to balance the attack. If you are using the Tiger Shark formation and you want to use Miracle Parade on start, that means that you have some chances of countering. It will not be a guarantee, still is a 37%, and she can buff herself sometimes. And then what you do later, you can maybe using Glinting Strike, so that you can debuff Dexterity after getting more damage. But still, placing her on the front allows her to be hit more often, and she does not have the enemies for that. And if you want to use Miracle Parade again, you can use again on turn 3. But turn 2, she's just there, taking hits, and that can make her die. So I don't think that this Faerie is that good. I mean, she has a strategy that's clear. She wants to inflict will debuffs. She also wants to negate damage for 1 turn, but then she needs to be attacked and she needs to be on Tiger Shark. But after that, she does not do the best damage in the game. And even when compared to her other peer snookers like even UDX Shameu or even Teacher Cordelia, she's similar power as Teacher Cordelia, but she brings the will debuff, but she cannot compete against Mikhail and Minerva for the Pierce position. So she's the less interesting of them all if you can wait for another will debuffer. And one last thing for curiosity, this is the last version of Brownie in JP. She didn't get anything new, so it is what it is. She's not bad, but just not amazing either. So, well, let's return to the gacha image. Is this banner good? Well, I must tell you that yes, it's a good banner, but you have to decide based on what you're lacking. Well, Polka is now the king of the hit damage. Zenon is just very strong, very comparable to Dark, that was just a UDX character. We have also Evelyn, better replacement for Global X Rock Bouquet, but still good by herself. It's just that Faerie, maybe skip it easily if you're thinking about the future. But still you have 3 useful units in a banner. That means that you have good chance of getting something good. With the discount on the medals, you can decide upon what you have, or it can wait a little further. This banner will probably be available for at least 2 weeks. And you can also do something like just summon sometimes, and if you get 3 styles here, you can even stop without thinking too much about which ones they are. That is a method to just try to summon on most banners than just having to pit it and all. Well, I'm sure people will ask me which characters are the best ones here, and I'm gonna say that both Polka and Zenon have similar value, and they will have more value to those that already have Global X Rock Bouquet. If you have Scatter Explosions, this Polka is the king of the hill. He will be very strong for hit damage. But if you like someone like the first limited Madeline and you have never played with the evasion tank that negates all damage on turn 1, this Zenon will be very strong and also brings Pierce as fast damage, something that we are lacking in the game. Zenon may be better